I want to say a little bit about the movie The Outlaw Josey Wales and what's going on in America right now. The Outlaw Josey Wales, some say it's the greatest cowboy movie ever made, and it is. It's incredible. Um, it's more than a cowboy movie, it's a Civil War movie because Josey Wales plays a Southern boy or a Southern man. He's married, he's got a boy. And the Union troops come along and they murder his family, burn down his house. So Josey Wales decides to become a bushwhacker. And basically the story is that he's hunted down by Union soldiers through the movie. And at the end of the movie, one of the Union sympathizers who's helping the Union soldiers track down the Confederate soldiers, his name is Fletcher. He was Josey Wales' captain in the, well, he was Captain Fletcher. Anyway, he basically has a chance to capture Josey Wales, and he lets him go with the message that, in the war, a little bit of all of us died. And so he makes peace with Josey Wales and rides off. And I can't help but think of that movie when I think about what's going on in this country, especially what happened this past week up in Virginia in Arlington Cemetery, where they tore down the statue of reconciliation between the North and the South. Because the end of Josey Wales is Fletcher, a man who's been hunting down and killing Confederates. He is now reconciled with Josey Wales. And that's the message of the statue. When we went to war with Mexico after the Civil War, the President of the United States did not know whether or not the South would help fight in the war because of the Civil War. But they did. They fought just as hard as anyone else. And the president wanted the reconciliation memorial up. And the message of it was that the North and South had healed. Well, I think it's very symbolic of what's going on now. Basically, our federal government is telling us things haven't healed, or we're reopening this wound. And we all know this is part of something bigger. There's tearing down statues everywhere. There's a lot going on I won't get into. But I think I just wanted to touch on the symbolism that's in the movie and with what's going on with the statues, especially things Confederate related. One thing about cowboy movies, the cowboy period took place immediately after the Civil War. And if you go back and you watch cowboy movies from the 50s and the 60s, and the 70s, I believe Josey Wales was from 73. But they will reference that many of the cowboys in the movies are Confederate or Union veterans, and usually they're Confederate veterans. And they treat them with respect. And I'll tell you something that's really weird. It just struck me as being really weird. There's a movie called The Raid with Van Heflin, and it was filmed around 1956. But it's a story about Confederate soldiers who escape a Yankee prison. They go up to Vermont, and they're going to burn down a Vermont city in order to pull troops away from the South. And then they plan on escaping up to Canada. Well, the movie The Raid was actually based on true events. Now, you would think a movie about people, especially the Confederacy, burning down a Vermont city, that the bad guys would be the Confederate soldiers who are burning down the city. But no, that's not the case at all. The Confederates are portrayed as very sympathetic characters. In fact, they have a love interest for the main star, Van Heflin. And, there is one Confederate soldier who is presented in as kind of a hateful person, but, the reason they do it is not to make Southerners or Confederates look bad. Is just a plot device. So, those days are gone. These people, just imagine back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, they made all these movies where Confederates were portrayed in a positive light. And here we are, 60, 70 years later, and now all of a sudden, all these people who haven't read a book on the Civil War, have never been in the South in their life, all of a sudden, they just hate the South. And, I go on Twitter and I subscribe to a lot of feeds by Southerners, and these people who are not Southerners will respond in the feed and talk about how Sherman needed to kill more Southerners. And, or that we need Sherman today to kill Southerners today. Just remarkable stuff, just full of hatred. And so, what happened? I think I know what happened, but, that's the question for the viewer. And I'll let you answer that question on your own. But what happened to America where there is so much hatred for the South now and for the Confederacy? Eisenhower had a picture of Robert E. Lee hanging in his office. And he just said incredible things about Robert E. Lee. Winston Churchill said Robert E. Lee was the greatest American in history. And FDR dedicated a statue to Robert E. Lee. So, we've got these, I don't know, it gets frustrating. But people need to ask themselves, what is going on? I'm going to tell you something. Reading the tweets and the posts on different social media, people in the South are saying Southerners should not join the U.S. military. Some are going as far as saying, do not fly the American flag. Do not say the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, hopefully that won't grow, but I'm going to tell you, the feeling out there of not joining the military is strong, and it's widespread. And they're not reporting on it on any of the news media. But let me tell you, it's all over social media. So, something's going on. It's not good. Think about this. And I would appreciate any comments. Thank you.